Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. We are inside the Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh, thanks to Empire Properties, and thanks to Copiers Plus for presenting Ovies and Giglio. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. I feel like Copiers Plus needs to give you some, I don't know, whiteboard management, maybe some, I don't know, some document collaboration in the cloud, all the things that they can do along with keeping your print management costs down. What did you
Digital
get, Joe?
Solutions, you name it.
Yeah,
Copiers-Plus, they've got it.
Check it out. You have a very analog solution though with this whiteboard. What do we have going on here, man?
I like it. It was a whiteboard from our friends at the News and Observer. You know, I've always wanted to recreate a certain memeable video.
This is true.
At some point, we will.
Maybe at some point during the football season, we'll find out, the F around and find out ratio on the OG. Speaking of football season, but you do this long enough, man. You do this long enough, there are certain beats to the year. There's a rhythm to the year. I like routine. And I know we're getting close to the start of the college football season because, Joe, people are once again getting online and saying, without actually saying it, they don't like their families. Because once football's on, I got no time for you, family. My butt's never leaving that couch. I don't care if there's a wedding taking place.
There better not be a wedding.
There better not be any weddings, because if there's any weddings. So
I can't give up that state VMI weekend.
Week 0? You scheduled something for week 0 when I'm supposed to watch
Vanderbilt in Hawaii?
No, I'm sorry. I have priorities, and my priority is to watch Notre Dame and Navy in Ireland.
To wake up.
Oh, okay, cool. So here, look, man, nothing but salutes to guys like Josh Pate. He does Late Kick. It's a YouTube show that I think is run by 24/7. And this is when I knew football is right around the corner, because he tweeted this out this week. Not to get political, but anyone smart enough to run against Saturday fall weddings is as good as elected. He continues. The hot button issue of our time, September 23rd, is the #1 wedding date in America this year. We are a broken people. Please utilize this. And it's a screen grab from his YouTube show where it says LK's, not listener LK, but Late Kicks, wedding planner Saturdays to say I do. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, all yeses. But September, October, November, December, all no's. What takes place in January, Joe?
National Championship? Super Bowl? Well, Super Bowl's February.
Yeah. February. So those, cool.
I think he's a college football
I know,
specialist here.
I know. I'm halfway kidding. But what's wrong? We are a broken people.
We are. Clearly. That's the reason.
No. You are a broken person. We are not a broken people. Now, look. I get that some of this is just being played up to a certain level of silliness, but then I started looking at the replies, and there were a bunch of people who were like, I said no to my cousin's wedding because that was the same date as like Penn State, Ohio State. A, you don't know what time that game's going to be. B, and this is my larger point, what year is it, Joe? How did I just pull that up, by the way? It was on Twitter.
Probably on your phone, too.
It was on my phone. Now, look, not everybody's built a little bit different. For instance, you and I know somebody in the industry. I'm not going to air out their laundry, but you and I both know somebody in the industry that once Instacarted monitors to their hotel room, 3 of them, so that they could watch all the football they're accustomed to watching on a given Saturday, and then returned those monitors. It was a rental.
It's impressive.
That's pretty impressive. But that person's built different.
Sure.
When I tell you who that is, you're going to go, oh, yeah, no, that makes total sense. But again, I'm not going to air that out. So there are certain people that, yeah, man, ball is life. Totally get it. But if ball is so life, we live in a time that allows you to ball all the time.
Ball so hard.
Also, if college football is a communal event, why would you not want to combine what's taking place at a wedding while also watching one of your favorite teams with open bar? You're at an open bar, hanging out. Set the phone up on your table. Or look, my brother.
I could see the bride potentially taking umbrage, but
let me give you an example. Last November, my brother got married.
Yeah.
It happened to be the same day as NC State, Boston College.
Ooh.
My brother is about to get introduced at the wedding, along with the wedding party at the reception.
Okay.
I'm pulling this up on Twitter. They lost to Boston College on my wedding day. That was my brother's response. You see the beer. You see, shout out to Alex and all the crew there. And what do you see on the table next to the beer? You see a phone. They're watching the game. Keeping up with it. And then when it happened, when the game was over, like, well, I guess I can get introduced now. I don't have it in front of me. I can't find the picture. But was it 2017 when NC State played South Carolina to kick off the season on Labor Day? Well, that's where that picture's from. You know what's really awesome now with this? Again, this is from 6 years ago.
Math is hard.
Do you know what I did while waiting in a 90-minute line to ride Space Mountain?
Watch Deebo Samuel crush State's hopes and dreams.
Right. So, look, man, I get it. It's a shtick to a certain extent. But to me, the real broken person here is the person who apparently cannot leave their house and doesn't have things like this. Buddy, you're in a multi-million-dollar studio. You're telling me you don't have the tech to keep up with stuff while you're at somebody's wedding? That's also a really easy way to make friends. You want to make cool with your future cousin-in-law? You want to, like, I don't know, find your new bro for life in the family? Hey, man, pull out the phone and watch some football while you're drinking free beer. I don't see why this is a problem.
Also, you're going to remember those games, too. Punkage, my roommate from NC State, one of my roommates from NC State, got married during the State Texas Tech game where T.A. McClendon scored 100 touchdowns.
Oh, man.
So I remember that game. Yeah. Even though I didn't watch all of it. And then Jessica's oldest brother, Justin, got married during the T.A. McClendon game. The State Carolina game. So I remember both of their weddings for that reason.
But here's the other problem. Speaking of wedding, here's the other problem.
But we didn't have phones then. No. I remember that State Carolina game was not close.
You didn't have phones, but you just reminded me. I got married April 2002. What was happening in late April 2002?
Playoffs. The Canes really making a first push.
Day we got married was the day that the Carolina Hurricanes knocked out the New Jersey Devils.
The Devils, wow.
Okay.
So you remember that, though?
I remember that because
for multiple reasons.
For multiple reasons. I had people who couldn't make the wedding. Well, but the wedding was planned at a time where there's nothing going on. Final Four is over. Couldn't. So hockey doesn't matter? Are we a broken people when it comes to hockey? I can't do anything.
Canada is very disappointed
in us. The Canes might be in the playoffs.
Quebec might be
but instead, it created some pretty incredible memories. For instance, Russ Henry, Russ with a love muscle, my guy. He had a flip phone, but that was still during the time where you could get text updates. And that dude's phone went off in the middle of the wedding, and it started playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game with that bad chiptune Nokia. Remember the Nokias?
Yes.
It was like, boo, bee, boo, doo, boo, 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 in the middle of the wedding. Okay? And then when wedding was over, I had people leave to go to their cars to turn on 850 The Buzz so they can hear the end of the game. And rather than getting, hey, man, congratulations, I had a guy go, I forgot which family member it was.
Hang on.
No. They came right back. Kids did it. They beat the Devils. So it's all tied together. So again, I think Josh is the broken person here. He's the one with the weak brain that doesn't understand that if football is a communal event that we all agree that it is, you find a freaking way. Not I have to shut down and be a hermit and never leave the house on a Saturday. Josh, you are the broken person. Fired up this morning. I haven't even hit the weller yet. Where's my brass monkey? I need some more brass monkey, Joe. Let's go.
Housekeeping.
Buttons. Let's try this again.
Housekeeping.
See that, Joe?
I do.
Like this one? You like the Skyhawks one?
I do. I bought the same one. But I'm going to give that to Zach, the guy who had his birthday and a kid born on the same day. So mailing that out to him today.
I love that. That
was the best design.
What, the Skyhawks one?
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
What's funny is that people really gravitate to the Ice Caps design.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
shouts to the Canes. They kind of helped us on that one a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So all these things are available right now at breakingtea.com. Check it out, breakingtea.com/OG, or just look up OVIES GIGLIO Breaking Tea on Google. It'll take you to the landing page. A lot of cool stuff there. We got 3 shirts. Actually, we got 4 shirts available right now. that we've designed. Speaking of the Canes, we got the Bad for Rating shirt, just in time for you to get hyped for hockey season. We got the Ice Cap shirt, the Skyhawk shirt, and then the Positive Vibes Only shirt. We have another shirt that we're in the process of designing that hopefully will be out sometime in October. Really excited about that. So be on the lookout for that. Any other housekeeping that we have to be aware of? No? Yeah, we're good. No housekeeping?
We're boring.
Are we that boring?
Well, we have 2 big events coming up.
I know. We got to focus on that.
We got to plan for those. We just, we're still in those finalizing detail stages. But everybody knows we got pizza night, 9/18, Oakwood Pizza Box. Excited for that.
That's fair.
And then the golf tournament, the OG Golf Classic, October 8th, Friday, the first Friday of October.
Thanks to Hometown Realty for sponsoring OVIES and Giglio. You can check them out at myhtr.com, 919-550-7355. Again, that's myhtr.com. Buying a house, selling a house. They got a bunch of agents in the area, flooding the market. They got you covered.
Yeah. Barry Woodard and his team, more than 250 agents. They have 6 locations. Seriously, if you go to myhtr.com, there's a big toggle right in the middle. It's a great graphic. It says buy, sell. So go check them out. Don't fool around. This market is difficult right now.
It is.
This isn't like we're running hot right now. Okay. So what you need to do is make sure you get an agent and don't take some lowball offer from some national chain. Okay. Don't do that crap. Do what's best for you. Get your best value. It's your biggest investment in your life, your home. Barry Woodard and his team are going to take care of that investment for you.
So let's say you've purchased a house. Let's say you've bought a house. Maybe you need to work on those closing documents, the mortgage, all that fun stuff. Whitaker and Hamer, they got you. WH.lawyer. Check them out online. They got offices all across North Carolina. They got all the G's covered. Again, that's WH.lawyer.
Yeah, just a little inside baseball here. We're working on our books with a group called the Sherpa Collaboration. And Sam, shout out to Sam over at Sherpa. When she said, she's sending out some of her invoice, she's like, oh, Josh Whitaker. She's like, a lot of houses that we work on that are closed. She's like, a lot of companies use Josh Whitaker I know that name. And I said, yes, you do. And they have the world's greatest URL, wh.lawyer.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is the athletics director at Wake Forest. He is John Currie. John, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm awesome. We're ready to roll here. We got a sellout crowd coming to a Legacy Federal Credit Union Stadium next Thursday night.
Look at this AD getting his talking points in already. I love it.
A long list of them right here,
I saw how much you're raising annually, and I'm sitting here going, this is a man with a background, with a logo. This is a man who knows what he's doing. Didn't get here by accident.
No.
Well, I've made plenty of mistakes in my 31 years of college athletics. I'm just
We all do. We all do. So I'm assuming you've had a nice, chill,
easy
summer at Wake Forest. After you go to the College World Series, obviously not the ending you want, but it was an incredible journey. You just kicked back and got ready for the football season, right? Nothing major going on.
Well, we had actually put up a list yesterday. We had a little operations meeting because we got a big game on Thursday night next week, and we just had a list of all the new things that we've got, new concessionaire, new this and new lights and all this kind of stuff and new staff. And so the operations aspect of what we do when we entertain, last year we had 450,000 people come to Wake Forest games here in Winston-Salem. And so the operations aspect of that, getting ready. We're also hosting right now an ATP 250, the Winston-Salem Open, which is a tennis deal, which has been going on for like 12 years right now. So it's never ending for that group to get ready. And this past year, to your point, we had an incredible year. Our 10th national championship, which is something only 7 schools, including Wake Forest, have done in our league in women's golf, and then going to the College World Series. And the College World Series impact of hosting those 2 big weekends and then being in Omaha for a whole week, there was definitely some human capital expended on that from an administrative standpoint.
Did you take a shot at that bar that keeps a leaderboard for all the teams?
I did go in and take a picture. And in fact, I sent the picture to Dr. Winty, who was not there yet. And I went in early. Now, I did promise our team if we won, I would go in there and buy them all. I would top it off. So I didn't get that opportunity yet. Right. But, we've got a great
21. We're drinking responsibly.
Of course, got to drink responsibly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Wake Forest at the end of the day.
Who broke the barrier of selling alcohol at football games, by the way.
But
I think the big irony that people pointed out was that Oral Roberts was doing better than Virginia in that particular competition, which was somewhat contradictory.
Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll stop being cute about it and get to the thing that's fascinated just about the rest of the ACC, and you're in the ground level of it. From your perspective, did you think once you left Amelia Island, where all the ADs are gathered and Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, is talking about, look, let's just all get on the same page here. Let's not play this out publicly. Were you surprised that it spilled out again this summer, thanks to a public Florida State Board of Trustees meeting that was on Zoom?
Right. Well, no, not at all. Never. 14 years as an AD in 3 conferences, and going through the 8 years I went at Kansas State when the Big 12 in the Big 12 period from 2009 to 2017. One of the great things, really smart things, among others, that Commissioner Phillips said at the end of that meeting, he said, all these institutions around the country, it's not just in the ACC, are under tremendous pressure. Higher education is under tremendous pressure. There's a lot of pressures, political pressures, you name it, everybody that manifests itself in different ways at different places. And when you have places with, all well-meaning, well-intentioned board members who feel a fiduciary responsibility for their university that they're represented, whether they're politically appointed or meritocratically appointed, et cetera, so you're going to have some different, comments. Mike Alford is a good friend. We go way back, and we talked the day before that meeting in Tallahassee that they had, and we talked after it. So none of that was very surprising.
When you've worked at Crazy, which John Currie's done,
yeah,
you're Mike Alford's friend because he works at Crazy now, right?
Well,
so you have.
I'm not denigrating or criticizing any of our 15 institutions. They're all really different.
Words for you. Like Florida State is crazy. It's fine. You previously worked at a school that is crazy. I would love to have Tennessee in the irate Giglio conference. Like that's mad respect for the passion of those fan bases. So no, but you're like one of the people who would understand his position. That's the politically correct way of putting it, I guess.
I appreciate Michael. I appreciate Florida State, and I appreciate the pressure. Everybody's under pressure again, and in this moment of time, one of the things that I take comfort's probably the wrong word, but that I remind our people, and including fans of the ACC and fans of Wake Forest, we're at Wake Forest. We're at the strongest point we've ever been from an institutional perspective. From a national brand profile perspective, we got the fastest growing brand in the Power 5, fastest growing fan base. And from an infrastructure perspective, and from a winning perspective and an academic perspective, we're the best we've ever been, right? And you're going to have ups and downs in athletics. And so to be in this moment of time of, kind of different existential factors that face the enterprise of college athletics, there's a lot of uncertainty, more uncertainty than ever before. But I'd much rather be facing this moment of time at, I don't want to say peak strength for Wake Forest, because I consider us continuing to be going up the mountain. But I like our position.
Okay. Well, how do you think you've been able to build that strength? Because you are, don't make me be the one who points the obvious out here, at the smallest Power 5 school. So it's fairly remarkable. And I'm looking at the Winston-Salem Journal article that says you've raised more than $30 million this year.
Right.
I get, there's doctors and lawyers there. I get that, but that's impressive, man. Really impressive.
Well, one of the things I think that is a misnomer, and I appreciate you asking the question. We've if you read my occasional newsletter from the Quad to our fans, I pretty much said, stop saying small. Right. Wake Forest is distinctive. It's intimate. It's high quality, but we're really not small. And small is not an impact when you have 2.7 million fans, which is, I think, like 9th in the league. We're moving up. We're about 25,000 shy of NC State. We're 50,000 ahead of Virginia Tech. Right. And when you have a city and a community, the triad. I'm actually sitting in Lawrence Stroll Veterans Memorial Coliseum right now before a meeting, and there's 1.3 million people within 30 minutes of where I'm sitting right now. It's one of the best, highest rated ESPN markets in the country. And we've got all these strengths of the state of North Carolina overall. So Wake Forest has been able to continue to, be uncompromising in our commitment. I think Dave Clawson said it best at the football media days. We're still going to run a college football program at Wake Forest. We still have athletes that go to class and graduate and get multiple degrees and all that kind of stuff. And so I do believe that there's passion, there is excellence, and then our staff has worked hard to elevate our communication and social media and all that kind of stuff over the last several years under Will Pantagis's leadership. And as I said in my letter, people watch winners, and Wake Forest has won. From a football perspective, we averaged 30 points a game over the last 5 or 6 years, which is the only school in the league to do that. I think us and Ohio State are the tops in the country. Coach Clausen has had us in a bowl 7 straight years, which is the second longest streak. It's the 11th longest streak in the country. We've won 5 out of the last 7 years bowl games. So, and then you've got all the other stuff with baseball in the College World Series and women's golf and soccer, et cetera. I mean, every program we have except one was in the postseason last year. So, that winning has an effect.
John Currie, Wake Forest AD, joining us here on OVIES and Giglio. So we talked to former North Carolina Chancellor Holden Thorpe a couple of weeks ago. Because chancellors, presidents of universities have to operate on a completely different level. You're focused on athletics. The chancellors, presidents are working on everything related to the university. So they rely on you, the athletic directors, to inform them of what's going on. So what conversations have you had with the head of Wake Forest this summer with all of the speculation and reporting around expansion of the ACC? I guess I'll get to the point. Based on reports, there were only 4 schools that voted against Cal and Stanford joining the ACC. You were not one of those schools. So I'll infer from that you're pro Stanford and Cal joining the league. What is the conversation? What is the advisement for those 2 schools, in your opinion, to join the ACC?
Well, first of all, Joe, as I sent you the note, I thought that interview that you did with Holden Thorpe was incredibly well done. I thought Chancellor Thorpe's candor in that was really, I shared it with our team, with our advisory team, with our board, because it really gave a lot of the context and the history. And it's really easy to forget some of the context and history. And I also believe that if you look, there's criticism right now. A lot of it's self-imposed about grant of rights and our existing ESPN ACC network contract. But the reality of it is that this is not a good time in the broadcast media industry, right? I mean, all you got to do is read the thing and jiggle. I mean, the ticker or the CNBC or.
I like that.
So we gotta get one of those. We need one of those for the podcast here on StreamYard. Yeah. We got to get one.
All you got to do is read all that stuff. Read those articles about shareholders and Netflix lack of profitability and all those kind of stuff to realize we're in a really disrupted time. It's not unlike a mortgage crisis time, right? And so it's really easy to sit here and say, well, every deal would be better, and that might be what it might have been, but that's not the reality right now, right? So we're in a pretty good position. And even I thought the interview that my former president, Kirk Schultz, who's now the president at Washington State, gave with Pete Thamel a week or so ago, when he talked about the Pac-12 could have done a deal, back in the fall and didn't do it because they thought they could get, 60% more, which is kind of like, when I wanted to sell my house in 2009 that I bought in 2007, it wasn't worth what I thought it was worth. Because you don't recognize what the market is. So in response to your question, which you asked like 30 minutes ago, Joe, about our conversations with President Wente, I'm really lucky. We're really lucky at Wake Forest that President Wente has extraordinary experience, from being at Vanderbilt, being an interim chancellor there. So that gave her exposure inside the Southeastern Conference with Commissioner Sankey, et cetera. So she's got great balance and perspective. And college athletics has been really important to Wake Forest for a long, long time as a charter member of the ACC. So those are regular and constant conversations. President Wente is a biochemist. I think I said that right. So she's pretty analytical. She likes data and she likes feedback, but she's also able to really dispassionately look at the factors that are important for our university and for the ACC. She's part of the ACC executive committee. I think if you look overall at the landscape, we know, and in my particular situation, I've just lived the fact that this enterprise is consolidated over the years. Going back 30 or 40 years, this enterprise is consolidated in college athletics. And I was there. I mean, I remember very distinctly the night the Big 12 died. I mean, the old Big East died, and as it splintered, some went to the ACC. We were in the Big 12. We picked up one. I remember that. 3 weeks ago, the Pac-12 died, essentially, which is very sad for college athletics and for all the institutions engaged in it. And so as you look at, consolidation being inevitable, there's some real arguments that strength in numbers and adding really strong universities that reflect the values of our league, that are relevant to the populations of our universities. All those are reasons that things can make sense. Now, on the other side, there's also, it's different. I've been quoted this week. I mean, I grew up on Tobacco Road, and I knew every, in 1982, I could have named all 5 starting quarterbacks. I mean, all 8 starting quarterbacks in the league. I could have named all, the starting lineups for all 5 basketball schools. I watched Wednesday night, and so that was great. It's not going to be like that again, right? It's just not. And so how do we make sure the ACC, particularly for the state of North Carolina, which is the anchor of a Power 4, I guess now, conference, right, in Charlotte, how do we make sure this thing continues to stay strong for generations? And so those are some of the factors I think that have to be weighed as we're examining, different options.
So if I play field hockey for Wake Forest and I say to you, John, hey man, I'm here because I want a great education. I'm here because I want to win. I'm not here because I want to go to Palo Alto on a Tuesday night. I'm not here because I want to go play against Stanford and Cal. What would you say to me?
Well, we talked to our student athletes. And in fact, our field hockey team last year flew out to Palo Alto and played Stanford. We played Cal Berkeley, and we played UC Davis. So, the student athletes that we have in our league are used to playing at the highest level. The student athletes at other schools, they want to play at the highest level. And this is the highest level. We're also spoiled in the state of North Carolina. We've been for years, we get on I-40 and we go to Durham or Chapel Hill or down 85 to Clemson or, up 29 to Charlottesville, and it's a bus and we drive down and we come back, and we're spoiled. Right. And if you look at schools in our league, for Miami and Boston College and Syracuse and Notre Dame and Florida State, every game is a plane trip. I mean, every trip is a plane trip. And so the facts are that if you have West Coast school, if you had 1 or 2 West Coast schools, and I don't know, again, those are presidential level conversations, but just looking at it on the surface, if you have, 2 West Coast schools, you're looking at, a football program is going to go out there once every 4 years, right? Okay. It's just we're already out there back and forth. I can't remember the numbers, but it's 7 or 8 of our teams were out there last year in that vicinity. And then if you look at other places, that's part of the deal. I don't minimize that though, and it takes creativity and it takes planning, and that'll continue to be part of the enterprise. I also think, and not to make my answer even longer, which I don't know what the record is for the.
You have a future in radio.
Yeah, you do.
And podcast.
Well, keep me in mind because this is a volatile AD business, right? The other thing is that just as it's not always like it was, I don't think it's always going to be like it is. And I believe it's very possible. And I believe there's a lot of really good reasons to look at regionalization of competition in sports.
That's my next question. Do you see a future where football could break off and be separate from those other sports so that those other sports could be regionalized?
I see that football has really unique aspects, really, really unique. And so whether it's a breakaway and football becomes its own thing, like the Knight Commission has advocated for, which is a thoughtful idea, or, some other element. But we don't have to. We've tried to treat everybody from an NCAA perspective. We tried to treat everybody the same way. Right. And I remember one specific, this is an autonomy meeting. We're down in Dallas, and there were 3, it was like Noah's Ark, right? There were 3 people from every conference and stuff. And one of the, and including student athletes, right? And one of the
risk of explaining the Bible to you, John, there wasn't 3.
It was only 2.
I know it was 2, but
it was like it. It was like
if he was at State or a public school, I'd let him get away with this, but I can't at Wake Forest.
Well, historically Baptist, right? So I'm American Baptist, right? So anyhow, but in this conversation, one of the ideas, which I thought was a great idea, is, hey, let's have the first 3 weeks of the January semester every year completely, no activity. You know, be like the NFL, lock everybody out of the building, no activity, no athletics, no voluntary practices, no captain's practices, no nothing. Well, who raised their hand and said, no, we can't do that? Swimmers. Swimmers can't not be in the pool for 3 months, right? I mean, for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? They can't do that. So you can't treat however many sports it is that the association sponsors. I think we sponsor 23 ACC championships or something like that. We have 18 sports. You can't treat everyone exactly the same. Like in men's soccer, the ACC is the best men's soccer league in the country, right? We don't play everybody in our league. I think we have 12 teams or 13 teams in the ACC for men's soccer out of 15 schools. We don't play a full round robin in men's soccer. I think we play 8 regular season games. Right. So like Wake Forest, we didn't play North Carolina Chapel Hill last year in the regular season because that's how that sport has decided to arrange its schedule because it's such a strong league to be able to be most competitive and build towards the NCAA tournament. So my point is that all of this stuff, there's flexibility and there's ways to adapt to maybe new geographic realities that don't compromise competitive excellence and do allow for the ability to make sure our student athlete welfare is appropriate.
When Dr. Wente asks you, does Stanford and Cal help us financially? Your answer is?
Well, I'm not at liberty to share all details of those kind of ideas, and really would defer the question. I think overall, you've got to look at these things as short-term and long-term. Right. What's the effect of not making decisions to expand, which may be the right decisions? What's the effect of making those decisions? Some will be evident immediately. Some won't be evident for 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years or whatever. So I think you got to look at the big picture of strength and where you want to be, down the road. I won't repeat Wayne Gretzky's often cliche.
I thought that was Michael Scott's. I'm getting the quotes. I'm getting the quotes wrong.
No, I only ask you because you're making a compelling case, and I haven't heard one yet for Stanford and Cal, and you're in the game, man. Yeah. So I value your opinion and what you're saying, and it's easy for us to sit here in the Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh and say any of these things, right? There's a lot of fantasy camping going on here, right? and because we're not in it, but you're in it. And what you're saying about your field hockey, it's resonating with me. I'm just curious, though, because, I think ultimately financially is how these decisions get made, no matter who makes them, and no matter at what level, right? Like, that's the reality of the world. So,
I'm
not trying to put you in a difficult
Yeah. Well, one of the advantages that our league has is we don't have to do anything right now.
Thank you.
It's part of our fantasy camp.
I've been screaming this for the longest time, and I've used the phrase. It's kind of a golden handcuff situation, but the grant of rights allows you.
It's a gift and a curse
to not have to do anything. Okay, and I find it frustrating that there's just because everybody else is doing it, we have to do it too. When the history of college athletics, that with every amount of expansion, there's a contraction. The ACC was born out of that bloat of another conference to do something that was more like-minded. So I find it very strange that there's this we got to do something. Actually, you don't.
Yeah, you don't. But, not doing anything is doing something. And
that's fair. That's fair.
As you assess, different options. When I go back to the luxury of not having to do anything, we don't. And we see what happens when conferences get into a position where they have to do something, right? It just happened 2 weeks ago, and it had devastating consequences, right? So the trick and the threading of the needle from the leadership is making the right decisions to maintain the leverage and advantaged point. And, you're really to be able to be in a position where you can make a decision, not because you're under duress, but because you have the opportunity to take advantage of opportunities. And, leverage is an opportunity that doesn't always exist.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you can certainly, rush into something and not be thoughtful, and you can make bad decisions. In I would say in the ACC, it's not like, we woke up a week ago and said, hey, we ought to think about expansion.
Sure.
Why don't we do one? I think there's a long time period of thoughtfulness and assessment. And I mean, we've got 15 really, really smart presidents leading our league, and we've got a smart commissioner who's well advised. And so I have trust that the decisions that are made will be ones that are the right decisions for the future of our league. But we really shouldn't underestimate the fact that this is a really strong league. It's already the best league of academic institutions in the country. It already wins, other than the Ivy League, of course. But we're a lot more accessible. And it already wins more than any other league. So those are two pretty good things.
And you also have access right now. I guess we can close the conversation on this. And we thank John Currie, AD at Wake Forest, for his time. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey always looks at opportunities to benefit the SEC. He's the commissioner. That's what he should be doing. I'm not faulting him. It's not a knock. And he's looking at the disruption of these Power 5 conferences, or now the Power 4, and he wants to change the dynamics of the college football playoff, which had automatic qualifiers for the top-ranked
top six,
the top 6 conference champions. That gives the ACC access. I mean, I thought that's what this is all about: access to winning. Mm-hmm. And I feel like by getting rid of the current setup, it actually does not give the ACC any more leverage. So, what kind of conversations are taking place about what you want to do for the college football playoff with a conference commissioner and a conference that probably wants to benefit themselves by having more teams included that might keep the ACC out?
Well, first of all, I'm just trying to get ready for a women's soccer game tomorrow and a men's soccer game tomorrow night and a new concessionaire and all that kind of stuff. But in all seriousness, I think Commissioner Sankey's made a lot of really smart comments this summer, questioning, challenging lack of progress nationally on NIL, common sense. And, it is appropriate to examine the CFP in light of some of the membership changes. There's other things. We've had really lack of any kind of standard for a number of schools that want to join FBS, right? And, there are, we're at a disrupted time, and it'll be appropriate and to continue those conversations. And I know Commissioner Phillips is in contact with the other commissioners regularly. And I believe that, going forward, that stuff will work itself out, and it'll be just fine for the ACC. Okay. The bottom line is we got good programs in the ACC and a lot of excitement. And, we're in 10 great states right now with great populations. Obviously, the state of North Carolina, great business epicenter and great educational institutions.
All right, we covered a lot of ground today, so I'm going to let you slide this time how you killed the NC State football rivalry. That's for next time.
Come on. Look.
Tell me what happened, man.
How are you not a primary? What's going on?
Fine. And what? What are we doing?
We got a lot out of that deal, and that was, it's hard to change that dynamic. Coach Clausen, the divisional dynamic, Coach Clausen always jokes that there was always 6 votes against any change, right? Or 7, from the coastal people that didn't have to play Clemson every year, like we have. But it is good for fans that you're going to play everybody in the conference at least every 2 years. For us, our annual games that are every year are Duke and Virginia Tech, which is right up the road, and Atlanta, which is a great, city for our alums at Folks. The Big Four rivalry is incredibly important to Wake Forest and all the schools in our state, and we talk about it all the time. So hopefully we are playing the Wolfpack this year on November the 12th. Right here, and we'll have an awesome sold-out crowd.
No, you're beating the Wolfpack at your place this year.
They beat us last year. They
at your place, man. Last year, even the Phillip couldn't win there.
Speaking, and we'll close on this. Speaking of football and Dave Clausen, he's a big Talking Heads fan, and they're going to be I almost wore my Cure shirt today, but we have merch to sell, including our own T-shirts. But he's a huge Talking Heads fan, and Stop Making Sense, the classic concert film, is being re-released in 4K on September 29th.
Right.
It's not lost on me that Wake Forest has an open date that weekend. You don't play on September 30th. Was that by design?
He's going to close the stadium and put it on the big screen.
I'm just curious if that's something that
he might be going to the premiere in New York. I do think it's very appropriate when we're talking about college athletics and we're talking about the talking heads that while you were thinking about it, I was thinking about Stop Making Sense too, because we stopped making sense a long time ago.
Yeah.
Great name for a podcast.
Yeah, it is. The podcast you can do when you finally decide to get out of this AD business.
It probably won't be elective. It's not a decision.
John Currie, Wake Forest Athletics Director. We appreciate the time. We appreciate the candidness. And we will talk to you later. Best of luck this season.
All right. Thanks so much.
I know why you're laughing. We'll get to that.
There.
We'll get there. But before we get there, thanks to John Currie, Wake Forest Athletic Director, for joining us. And thanks to Homefield for sponsoring OVIES and Giglio. Football season's right around the corner. Week 0 is right here. What do you got? What do you got going on here?
That's intern Cal's payment.
Oh, nice. You got on that XL hoodie? I love it.
It's on its way.
Speaking of hoodies, you can just buy a straight up hoodie if you want with no logos on it. It's their core collection. Their hoodies, as we get ready for fall, are absolutely money. But you can actually find your favorite school's logos, old school vintage logos on these hoodies in a variety of colors. Just go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG23 for 15% off your first order. Again, that's OG23. T-shirts too. They got bomber jackets that they're releasing for a couple ACC schools. Florida State and Virginia Tech are included in that. But they got all sorts of new drops coming out all the time. Sign up for the newsletter because that's why you can keep up with this stuff. It's great stuff.
The app today.
The app is
I got a notification that said you've received a extra bonus, an extra discount. I was like,
love
downloading the app.
Love it. So again, go check out homefieldapparel.com. OG23 is the promo code for 15% off your order. Speaking of websites, Matt Davis is a genius because you can go to theoginsurance.com and it'll take you to his website for State Farm. Or you can give him a call if you want, 919-779-8277. I'm a State Farm client myself. Matt does a great job with State Farm, covering Garner and all the surrounding Triangle area. Hit him up.
I'm excited to see Matt. Friday, Garner has their first football game. Matt's on the grill, does great work over there.
Mm-hmm.
Always involved in the community. He's over on Aversboro Road. But no, check it out, theoginsurance.com. Matt will handle all of your insurance needs and his financial services too, because remember, your boy needs help when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, I know.
And keeping things straight.
Yeah.
And Matt has been instrumental that way for us. We also got some golf events lined up that I'm ready for as well. So Matt's an all-around good dude. And again, he has the world's greatest billboard, which is, what if you want to actually talk to a real person?
Weird.
Well, all you got to do is call 919-779-8277. Or again, go to theoginsurance.com.
Move on.
You were laughing earlier. Are you ready? Now the audience will find out why you were laughing.
Sometimes you just have to be different. See what works.
Hey,
see what doesn't work.
You can't always go to the same restaurant, Joe.
You don't want to be the same Italian place in 20 years. Yes.
A life coach told us that once.
Yes.
So
wise words.
Let's mix some things up. And it's on his birthday. Dimitri Ravano joining us. Hey man, your bubbles are kind of drifting on you, buddy.
I know. This is not what I had anticipated for OVIES GIGLIO.
Yeah, shift that down a little bit.
Yeah, hang on.
You're good. Don't stop moving. We don't need to see any more, Dimitri.
This is why I'm moving the bubbles, Joe.
In the college football bubble bath.
Yeah,
bubble bath where the magic happens. Happy birthday! I see you're treating yourself already.
I am. I don't know what sort of wine I'm drinking. I always buy what is ever $5.99 or under at Target. So I got myself
very sophisticated.
Alabama football and cheap wine.
Yeah, basically, I found this brand called Cul-de-sac, which comes in like a hilariously large bottle and is like $3.99. So that's going to be the go-to from now on.
Okay, so so Ahsoka premiered last night on Disney.
Yes.
Joe, are you familiar with this new Star Wars show?
I thought you were talking about cork soakers when you said Ahsoka.
No, so this
What
is
year was that? Somewhere between the 68th and 70.
so this is the next Disney Star Wars show that people are hype about. I watched the 2-episode premiere last night with the kids. I enjoyed it, Dimitri. I don't know about you. Did you enjoy the first 2 shows?
I actually have not watched it yet, Joe. It's literally on my to-do list as soon as we're done.
Hey man, I'm glad you saved it for your birthday. You could tell that Dave Filoni, the guy who was in charge of Clone Wars, has been a part of. He's basically like George Lucas's protege, the keeper of the.
Yeah, he's John Favreau for the Star Wars universe at this point.
He kind of is, right? But this is clearly his baby because he really loved the characters of Rebels, which this is based off of, and now he's bringing it to live action. And I really enjoyed it. But Joe, as you can tell by his reaction, is very much like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Right.
So I asked you, can we bring back one of my favorite bits, Star Wars character or ... for Joe?
Oh, for me?
For you.
Okay. You got to make sure you don't, it's not another category that I know.
Well, see, I made the mistake of doing Star Wars character or golfer.
Right. So I know all of the golfers, so it can't be that.
I couldn't, although Max Homa does sound like somebody who would be the next key character in a Star Wars show. Does he not?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So what do we got here, Dimitri?
Okay, so I've got 5 for you, and I think I went pretty deep on rosters for Ahsoka or Star Wars or college football player.
College football player. All right.
So I think I went deep enough on rosters that it's not going to be like Brennan Armstrong, right? So I think I've got a good one for you because also, and Joe, you can attest to this, having watched the first couple episodes, all I did was run down like a cast list.
Yeah, that's fine.
There were some solid like possible college football names on Ahsoka too.
All right, what do we got? First one.
All right, let's start with Balin Skull.
Balin Skull?
Mm-hmm.
Skull, Skoll.
That's a football player.
I'm sorry, that is one of our key villains in Ahsoka. Played
Big Bad.
Okay.
He's the Big Bad, and he's a former Jedi. We don't know if he's Sith, but he's certainly not a Jedi.
Okay.
He's played by Ray Stevenson, who I had to look up to make sure it is not Ray Stevens, who gave us classics like Ahab the Arab and The Streak in the late 70s. All right. Octavius Oxendine. Football, that is correct. He is on the defensive line at the University of Kentucky. Let's go with Keanu Coat.
Keanu Coat. Your face is chuckling, or you might be giving away. That's Star Wars.
Weren't you a top 25 voter at one point, Giglio?
Keanu Coat. Get out of here.
Shouldn't you have the entire Bama roster memorized?
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
Yes, this is a redshirt sophomore linebacker at Bama. There went one of my AirPods. I hope I sound okay. Rowdy Beers.
Rowdy Beers?
Rowdy Beers. An evening out with Joe, obvious.
Rowdy. Go Star Wars.
I'm sorry, Rowdy Beers is a true freshman tight end at Florida International University.
Rowdy Beers.
Rowdy Beers. A few people know this. Florida International, my other alma mater. So I went very Dimitri heavy on today's list. Shin Hate.
Yeah, that's got to be Star Wars.
That is, in fact, Star Wars, played by Ivana Stacco. The number 2 bad in this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. They're your 5 Star Wars or Star Wars or Star Wars or college football characters.
General Booty.
General Booty is not only the quarterback for Oklahoma, also from the long line of Booty quarterbacks in SEC teams. We've already adopted Oklahoma.
And we also know Bo Nix, but Bo Nix also sounds like a Star Wars character. He sounds like a guy who's part of the Red 5 Squadron along with Wedge. Like those guys. Like
there are one of my favorite.
Bo, I need backup.
Some of my favorite names in college football this year are like, oh, that is too ridiculous. Like Fish McWilliams at UAB. I really love that name.
All right, what do we got? What do we got coming up on the college football bubble bath this week?
You know what? Everybody this week is doing their college football previews, and there is only one thing that interests me every year for these previews is which G5 team is going to get the New Year's 6 bowl slot. So that's what we're talking about this week.
Yeah, the one that should be in the playoff but won't. So they'll go into the New Year's 6.
I think we're going in this year with more like realistic contenders than ever. So I'm excited.
Dimitri, appreciate it, man. Enjoy your wine, enjoy your birthday, and we'll talk to you later.
I will. Thank you both, boys.
Let him plug his Panthers podcast too, will you?
I have a Panthers podcast with my dear friend Lauren Brownlow. She calls it a Panthers podcast. I call it a BryceYoung podcast. It is called Young Gun, a Carolina Panthers podcast about BryceYoung. This week, I advocate for taking Ike Ekwonu out back and shooting him.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah, I told you from my perspective, this podcast is only about one thing.
Well, all right. Since we're on the topic, and I try to keep this thing as live as possible, live to tape as possible. I actually want to pull up this Chris Sims clip. I think you can. I think you'll be able to hear it. This was pulled by Michael Rimmer on Twitter. He's one of these hardcore Carolina Panthers fans.
Okay.
So I want you to. I'm going to play this clip for you. You tell me your immediate thoughts from Chris Sims talking about BryceYoung.
As a fan and as a football guy, and you know me, I'd still sit there and go, I can't believe this is the number one pick, right? And I am a little bit of also too at times, like 50 drunks at the bar or whatever, watching like, and not that they're always right or whatever, but just like my wife's watching. Who's this quarterback?
Yeah,
this is BryceYoung. This is the first pick. This was the first. He's the first pick of the draft, right? I go to the weight room the next day at the Equinox, right? Yeah. I got Johnny Muck coming up to me. I don't know. BryceYoung, the number one pick, like all of a sudden now that's happening.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying I wouldn't feel that great if I was Carolina quite yet. As a fan.
There you go. There's Chris Sims talking about.
I mean, this is the same dude that believes Jalen Hurts is barely a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Can we just acknowledge, and I'm not saying this like as hate on the Panthers or anything, like how on earth are we going to know in 5 series of preseason play whether or not he's worthy of the number one pick? I'm totally open to the idea that he may have been the wrong choice for the Carolina Panthers. But, when your offensive line is not protecting you and Chuba Hubbard is getting at best 2 to 3 yards a carry, how do we know how much time the guy has? I thought that first play, the first play from scrimmage where he sort of had to improv and run and ended up gaining about a yard in this last game, I in that moment told Lauren, I hope you see what it is that I love about this guy is that improv Bryce is the best Bryce. The problem is he thinks he is more ahead of the game than he is sometimes, and he takes too long to do something like that when he should.
I will also point out that Chris Sims had, was it Zach, what's his face? The Jets,
Wilson?
Zach Wilson ahead of Trevor Lawrence in the draft.
So this goes back to before he was on TV when he was just on Bleacher Report. The year that Baker Mayfield came out number one. Do you know who he said should be the number one pick of that draft?
No, I don't.
Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen, who is now out of the league.
Maybe he's just got beef with the Panthers still, because if I remember correctly, he had his spleen removed after a game against the Panthers.
That's right. He was, and this is, as someone that grew up a Buccaneers fan, although I'm not really anymore, I do have an instant disdain for any quarterback that John Gruden decided was the future of the franchise. Because talk about a guy that cannot pick quarterbacks.
All right, man. Happy birthday. Enjoy recording some more podcasts.
I'll buy you some new bubbles if you need more.
Yeah, you need more.
No, I have plenty. I always underestimate how many bubbles it takes to cover up all the sexiness.
Bye, Dimitri. You good?
I'm good.
What? No, look, you're the man. You're a man who takes your shirt off in the middle of a studio and starts applying icy hot. So it's all good.
BryceYoung does not pass the eye test. He's not a physical. Remember we talked about this during the combine.
Yeah,
he had the backpack on and he had a hoodie on, and I'm like,
yeah,
who's the high school student who snuck into the? And but again, they didn't take him for his physical attributes. They took him because they believe he's a next level thinker, and that is possible to be his strength.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I still maintain we can just kind of wait and see after 2 preseason games. Although we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, looking ahead to Friday's final preseason game. I'd like to see a real good, true half of football to get them prepared.
Let's get a whole half.
Let's get a whole half of football.
See what that looks like. Some
before
consecutive
week 1.
drives and Get a little sweat going, heat them up. Let's see it. You know what I'm saying? One series and get out, and maybe we'll talk about it in practice. I want to see.
You want sweaty Markel?
I want the full Patrick Ewing. I want the full Markel is engaged.
Okay,
right?
All right, just double check.
I don't want the catch and pat.
All right.
I don't like that. I want you to heat it up.
Let's try this again. Do we have a BryceYoung rookie card?
I actually do.
How much is it
from
worth?
The Bowman Chrome. That's not an auto. That's the thing. Got to get that autograph.
See, that's why you got to go to
the
Oak
right
City.
one.
That's why you got to. Because I'm like, oh, I have a Bryce Run rookie.
It's just a common.
It's just a common card.
Yep.
But you can get that special stuff at Oak City.
You can, and I'm looking forward to it because just saw the new sets are coming out. You get football, also basketball. Because don't forget, we got the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes coming up. Huge values, but the only way to know your value and true value of the cards that you already have, go check out Weston Oak City Sports Cards. They're in downtown Raleigh off of Glenwood Avenue. Great spot down there. Weston and Katie do such a great job. But number one thing, got to get your cards graded. Weston can help you do that. He helped me. I got a fair price. I know he'll be fair and honest with you. So go check him out at oakcitycards.com.
Also check out Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. The weather, you got that false sense of spring. Summer's still going to be heating us up throughout the rest of this month and September. Mosquitoes can still be active. That's why you need Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority, because with that heat, you're getting critters coming into the house. I told you earlier this week about the field mouse that decided to work its way into the house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lila took care of it, a little sicko mode, but still took care of it.
To be clear.
Yeah, Lila the cat. She's
one of your cats.
She is, all cats are a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if you have multiple cats, they all have their own distinct personalities. Lila happens to be God's perfect killing machine. This tiny little creature that will kill you. And that's what she was doing to the mouse. But if you don't have cats do that for you, Pest Authority can do it
Pest
for you.
Authority. You need Hayes Lancaster and his team. Hayes is a true OG. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. Go check them out at bugsbite.com.
So we were talking about, quarterbacks earlier with Dimitri, and he brought up the Buccaneers, and it actually sparked a memory of something that cracked me up yesterday because everybody's being named starters.
Yes.
Okay.
It's that time of the year.
It's that time of the year. You're also getting in college football, you're getting the hilarious. Oh,
it's
yeah.
OR season.
I forgot he transferred to this school.
Not OR season. You're saying it's
like,
transfer.
DJ
Phil Jerkovich. Yeah, he's at Pitt.
He's at Pitt. Hey, DJ Uyunglele. I forgot he's at Oregon State. He was named starter, which no kidding. And then remember what Jaden Rashada, the guy who had
supposed to go to Florida and get him all the money, and
I think he's at Arizona State now.
Okay,
he was named starter. I don't know how much money he's getting to be the starter, but hey, good for him, right?
Cool.
Baker Mayfield was recently named starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In and of itself,
was there some sort of wake and bake tweet that they sent out?
In and of itself, not a big deal. Cool. This is probably Baker Mayfield's last opportunity to show that he's a starting quarterback.
Starter, yeah.
And to your point, this is where social.
Actually, we've talk about things we don't talk about.
What's that?
Baker Mayfield was the Panthers opening day starter last year,
which I screamed they needed to do.
Loses the job, ends up going out to the Rams. It was actually in a throwaway, empty calorie, however many game run it was for him.
Yeah.
Was functional.
Yeah.
And that's how he's ended up at Tampa being their starter.
So here's the tweet that comes out from the Buccaneers yesterday. Time to bake.
Okay.
And
yeah,
here's
not wake and bake.
Not wake and bake, but here's this graphic
kind of sort of looks like someone's burning one.
This honestly looks like a poster that I saw at the Sublime Slightly Stupid show where time to bake. Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Somebody's sparking up.
Yeah.
But no, that's not exactly what they were doing here. Baker Mayfield, QB number 1, time to bake, everything else. Of course, I'm wondering, given what we know about Baker Mayfield, what exactly, A, is he baking? B, is it burnt?
Shouts to intern Tanner, who's at Tennessee now. That graphic had big bang bang Joe Gang energy.
It did.
Didn't it?
It really
For
did.
A pro team?
No, you're right.
Nice.
It really did have a lot
Maybe
of that
he
energy.
did. Maybe he's working for the Bucs now. I don't know.
One other thing I wanted to get back to as well from our conversation with John Currie, WakeForest athletic director, was the college football playoff and what will become of the setup for the college football playoff once it starts up in 2024. So you have Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, who will look at any opportunity to benefit the SEC. I'm not faulting him for this. And here's where I come at it with this conversation now. I used to be of the opinion that all these college conferences, while they're all jockeying for their own supremacy, it's all part of a circle of life, and they should all have participation to cover. If you truly want to go national, then you're going to have to include everybody, and you're going to need automatic qualifiers, because as college football has grown, you need the conference championship games to mean something.
Okay.
For instance, we had a conference championship game in the ACC last year that didn't really mean anything because neither team was in the running for the college football playoff.
Last 2 years.
But yeah, actually it has been the last 2 years. My bad. That can easily be stripped away if you make the automatic qualifiers coming out of almost like a de facto first playoff game, those conference championship game weekends. But that was at a time in which we had a Power Five, in which you could also take the highest ranked group of 5 team out of a conference game and include them. I was okay with that. The people who scream, no automatic qualifiers, I always rolled my eyes at, because just take the best teams. And my attitude is always, you don't even know how to determine the best teams. It's all superficial. It's all surface level. It's a team can have multiple losses and you can still think they're still one of the best teams.
Yeah, but they lost to Alabama. That doesn't count.
There is that, but I'm talking about teams that lose 2 or 3 times and people still want to scream, they're still one of the best teams in the country.
Sure.
Well, at some point, losses have to matter. There's an easy way to strip all that out. If they're truly one of the better teams in the country, they'll take care of business in their conference championship game if they make it, and then they can make it to the college football playoff.
I feel like we need a sounder for this. No, not the reggae horn.
No,
no.
I don't even have it up.
We need a sounder for this that says, "Hey, play the hits," because this is one of our great arguments.
Yeah.
To what matters more, your wins or your losses?
This is true.
And I argue to my death that your wins matter more than your losses, particularly in college football. But you're right. That's not play the hits. That's the sad trombone.
That's when I start talking Star Wars to you.
Oh, you lost me a little, but that's fine.
Hey.
No, so I do think you'll see more of this, because we've seen this in college basketball.
Yeah.
To your point, there will be a team that loses 8, 9, 10 times. All of a sudden, they catch a heater, they win the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we're coming. There's only been one team in the history of college football to win the national championship with 2 losses. That was LSU's Les Miles national championship team. They're the only team in the history of college football to win the national championship with 2 losses. I think you're going to see a 3-loss team win a national championship in the near future.
Entirely possible. But here's where I'm at. Here's where I've gotten to with everything that's happened this summer.
I think you may be overanalyzing this one just a little bit.
I don't think so. Greg Sankey always looks at it's very Games of Thronesy.
I know, but I'm going to give you the reason here.
Okay.
Because while you were talking through this, it jogged my memory.
All right.
You understand the name of this championship is not the national championship. We just assigned that to it.
Mm-hmm.
You are technically the college football playoff champion.
Okay. Just like you were the BCS champion.
Right. But do you know why they say that? Because if it was a national championship, it requires to be more inclusive.
Fair.
And that's where they were trying to get around the Boise States of the world, the UCFs of the world.
And that's where we're going to break off, by the way.
And that because they were like, no, it's not the national championship because you're not giving us access. And that's where we got into some their favorite, their non-profit status, the tax exempt status that they have. And the politicians from those states were like, you can't call yourself national champions if you're not giving undefeated Boise, undefeated Central Florida a chance. Hence, it's the college football playoff championship. And I just think what you'll see is they'll go to 5 automatic bids. That's a good compromise in the sense that it really does open up another slot for the SEC.
It's gonna, but at this point,
well, yes, you are correct. Sankey is the person effectively running it.
He's running it. So at this point, but my point,
but I don't think they'll go all.
At this point,
just
let it.
The top 12.
Let it. Because that's where we're at right now. I was reading an article in The Athletic the other day.
Yeah, but they can't because they're technically including all of these other conferences.
The SEC and the Big Ten apparently have ended their Cold War. Whoever the new conference commissioner is, was it Pertiti or whatever the guy's name is, has like thawed things with the SEC. And they realized that, hey, we kind of have our own AFC, NFC between these 2 conferences. And ultimately, I'm at the point where this is what you deserve. This is what college football deserves. You deserve the SEC running the show because every opportunity you had to try to take control back, you whiffed on. From the alliance to thinking you're worth more than you actually are, every conference had access. That's all that should ultimately matter. Because you're making $30 million less, who gives a crap? Last time I checked, it's about getting on the football field and proving it there, and you can still find ways to win without having the most amount of money. And as long as you
bootstrap it, Joe. Give me those bootstraps.
Bootstrap energy. Hey, look, man, Clemson won 2 national championships, but not having the biggest budget. Make that make sense to me.
Right.
And what was it about? It was about access. Now, how'd they make it? Because they were in the ACC, and the way, the path to the college football playoff for them was easier because it came from the ACC. I find it hysterical that schools like Florida State want to make it harder for themselves. But you have nobody to blame but yourself. And if this is the world you want to live in, based on your actions to get here, this is what you deserve. The SEC running the show. Speaking of running the show, sometimes you need some good coffee to run the show, your own show, to get your day going. That's why you need Breeze Through. Joe's been hitting that coffee all morning. Thanks to Breeze Through. You can get lifetime refills at Breeze Through. We have one more tumbler to give away, which I think
finally solid on this math. I'm finally solid.
We're good.
I'm going to see Adam on Friday, so I'm going to bring him his.
Okay.
Ken's coming in next Tuesday to get his,
Yes.
and you still have your charity giveaway that you had.
The Taylor Swift one. You're right. So head on out to Breeze Through. Check them out. Locations all across the triangle. That coffee hits, yo. It hits. All right, Butcher's Market. And Butcher's Market is where you need to be going for your tailgate needs. Tailgating season is right around the corner. Week 0 is here. Maybe you're about that life and you're going to just tailgate in your backyard while week 0 games are on.
I like that thought.
A little preseason for you.
I like that thought.
Hit the Butcher's Market this weekend.
Yeah, I went yesterday. I got the steak and cheese.
Nice.
I'm a creature of habit, man. I can't be knocked out of these.
It's funny. I went to Raleigh Times yesterday, and shout out to Martin. He got the pork nachos, and Brownlow's like, Giglio gets the pork nachos every time. I go, yeah, every time. Giglio is a creature of habit.
A problem.
as it relates to Butcher's Market, it's the same boat.
It's actually not a problem because they have all great stuff. I've also started with the hot dogs. The Butcher's Market hot dogs.
Okay.
Because they make their own, man. They're really, really good. Thebutchersmarkets.com, all the spots off of Millbrook there, home base, but also, and I had the French fries yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
People were not lying. That was my first time with the French fries. They were not lying.
It's good stuff.
Holly Springs, Carrie, of course, the original there in Saltbox Village.
All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe questions, shall we?
It's Wednesdays, so Anthony's open.
Yes, head on over to Oakwood Pizza Box. Check them out online at oakwoodpizzabox.com. We're actually going to go to YouTube for a couple of these. This was from a few days ago. I just saw it because we had talked to Don Waddell following the PNC Arena lease agreement. And Nick asked, have you all been able to discuss Rod's contract situation? Was that off limits when you spoke to Don? It wasn't off limits. It's just not something I'm really thinking about right now. We talk about urgency and everything else. Ultimately, I think that Rod Brind'Amour is not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
Right.
He understands the game. He understands he's got something going right now. And I believe that Rod will be taken care of the way Rod wants to be taken care of. Could he make more money somewhere else? Yes.
Of course.
That was true the last contract negotiation, but he didn't go. He clearly wants to be here. I think there's no urgency, and ultimately things will pan out the way they should. So I'm not really sweating it in that regard. This is from Corey on the YouTube. This year's incoming freshmen at NC State have parents that did not remember having to fight with ECU fans in the Carter Finley parking lot after a rain-soaked game in the 80s.
Yeah,
just built differently, man.
87 was if you're an ECU fan, it was a celebration. If you're a State fan, it was a riot. Just depends on which way you want to look at it.
I think it's from our friend Tom Wormy. Harden could go Costanza, drag the championship trophy around the parking lot by the car bumper. Yeah, Harden was just fined $100,000 by the NBA for his comments on Daryl Morey. That's certainly one way to get out. $100,000.
I mean, seems aggressive. Oh, because he called him a liar. Okay,
straight up liar.
Still feels aggressive. Wait, fined by the Sixers?
No, he was fined by the NBA.
Wow.
I'm pretty. Hold on a second. Let me double check. on the Harden thing because I could have it wrong. No, yeah, James Harden fined by NBA for public trade demands. That was from 15 hours ago over on NBC Sports Philadelphia. So the NBA is not playing around. All right, back to the YouTube comments. This is from yesterday's show.
Shouts to Tom, by the way.
Ryan, I don't get the complaints about the makeover in that arena. As an admittedly old dude by college standards, I'm absolutely stoked that there's going to be a place to grab food pregame, then hit up shows or games. You want the NHL to take us seriously? I'm down for putting serious money into developing the area. I think most people, the majority of people think like Ryan, the majority of the people think like you and me and Luke DeCock at the News and Observer.
Well,
I think there's just a vocal minority on
Sure.
social media that's mad about it.
Well, I also think it's not just this move, right? It's the Trinity and TX slots. Like,
Yeah.
it's the culmination that you feel like they're taking away spots. You got to remember, every time they take away spots, you're actually pushing people back out further. So it's not just the tailgate rich. That obviously they're going to be safe, but you are disrupting a situation, and it's not just the one incident here. It's not the one makeover. It's really going back and relitigating the Trinity and TX decisions.
And from Gary, how did Howell go after Corral? I still don't get it. Hey man, we talked about
He's
Sam Howell
from Charlotte.
and
And
the
I know that doesn't
Panthers.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
but-
They're not the Bobcats.
I get that,
You know?
but
They're not the Bobcats.
we were very clear about who we thought was going to be an NFL quarterback out of that class. We were very clear.
And one last one. This was from Maxwell, who got a sticker. Love my sticker, but if you want to advertise the pod, you might want to put a little more description on the sticker. Something like a bumper sticker with the YouTube banner logo, presented by Copiers Plus. Just my unwanted 2 cents. Not unwanted.
Not
Max.
unwanted.
Not unwanted.
No, Maxwell, you know what we have coming? We have a QR code, best sports talk show in town, that's going to be hung up at the Morning Times. And then you click on the QR code, you can see us.
Love it.
Sometimes you got to be a little esoteric. I mean, positive vibes only, 5 stars only. Yeah, man. I mean, you'll figure it out.
You want to get people talking. Like, hey, what's that OG sticker?
What does that mean?
What does it mean? It gets the people going. See you all Thursday.